All right, hi guys, welcome back. We are tying up the parachute atoms tonight. This is probably my all-time favorite emerger pattern. It just catches fish after fish, and um, yeah, it's an awesome fly. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm tying this one on a size 14 TMC standard dry fly hook. And we're going to tie it using 70 UTC denier thread. So we'll go ahead and get started. I've seen so many different ways of tying this fly, and I don't claim to have the best way to do it, but it's the way that I've practiced over and over to finally get to the point where I feel like I can tie it with some degree of confidence. So we'll start with the thread base, and we're going to build the thread base all the way back to the tail of the hook. And I take my time on this one. This isn't a fast fly for me. And then I'm going to go back up to about the third length of the hook, and we're going to tie in our tail. For the tail on this one, we're just going to use some brown hackle fibers. So I'm just going to take a hackle feather that I'm probably not going to use for anything else, and just pluck off a little handful of, see that, a little handful of hackle fibers. And the reason why I brought the thread back up to that mark is that this is where I'm going to try to tie the hackle fibers down, and then you can kind of guide it as you wrap the thread back to the bend of the hook, so you make sure that the hackles end up exactly where you want it. So measure the length of the tail. I'm gonna shoot for about the length. Mayflies have rather long tails, so we're gonna shoot for about the length of the hook. And a couple wraps. First wrap here will just be to kind of secure it down, and then we'll, like I said, I'm just gonna kind of guide the fibers to make sure that these stay on top of the hook as we go back. We don't want them wrapping around onto the side or slipping underneath the bottom. When we get to the back, I'm always taking around one wrap underneath the tail, and then we'll come back over the top, and that just helps to keep the tail propped upright. I'll trim off our excess. All right, now we'll work our way up to tie in the parachute post, and this is the part that took me the longest to figure out, and I still don't know if I'm very good at it, but I found a way that works for me. So I've had this stuff forever, but I'm using this parapost, and it's quite sparse. There's not a whole lot to it, so I've grabbed just a little, I don't know, it's about a six inch long strip. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to double it over, and I'm going to tie it down about right in the center of this little clump that I've got. So let's get our thread going up to about the 3/4 mark of the hook, and we're going to tie it. I'm going to tie it down, and I'm going to give about 3 wraps, and every wrap there got substantially tighter. And then we're going to pull the parachute post up, and we're going to start to secure that down, and we're going to wrap, and that is what's going to create our parachute post. We just want to go work our way up the post with the thread, and making sure that we give it a good tight pull each time. There we go. All right, now should be locked in pretty well. We'll work our way back down the post, and at this point, I'm gonna take a little Sally Hansen, hard as nails, and we're just gonna put a little dab there, and that'll help to secure it down, or help to kind of lock it in place even more. All right, so now the hackle, I'm just going to use a grizzly hackle for this one, and this is the size of the hackle. Fish probably don't care, but for the looks of it, you want to make sure that you've got your hackle measured to the right size of the hook. So this is, I measured this one out. It's a size 14, so it should work just about right. And I'm going to tie the hackle. I've stripped the kind of the tips of the stems off, and we're just going to tie that on right next to the post, and then we're going to work our way up. We want that tied along the post and all the way up to the very top of where our thread is on the post, and then we'll work our way back down. All right, so now we've got our hackle, we've got our post secured. Now we can take it back to the tail of the hook and get started with our dubbing. So we're going to use I'll use a frog hair dubbing on this one just because it's so fine. And I screwed this up for so long before I finally figured out how to do it. I found that one of the tricks with dubbing is that you just have to make sure that you have so little of it. And you literally want that, with that dubbing, you want almost every single one of those fibers to be able to wrap around the thread. And so I just wet my fingers and then spin it around and really take your time. And it's amazing how such a small amount of dubbing can actually go so far. So this will get us started, and we're just gonna build up somewhat of a tapered body. There we go, and then we'll add a little bit more. And again, it's so little actual dubbing that once you kind of pull it apart and you can see all the individual fibers, you realize that you don't need very much. Keep it spun really tight. And that'll also help the fly to float, because the more space you have in between each of those little dubbing fibers, the more you're going to get water caught in there and the less it's going to float. Let's add just a little bit more. Last little clump, and this I want to make sure we cover up as much of the parachute post as we can. A couple wraps around, and because I can't see the back side, yep, that's pretty good. Okay, so now our thread is wrapped around the parachute post. So at this point, we are going to wrap the hackle. We're going to start at the top of the post and try to slowly work our way down. And I sometimes have to spin this to be able to see. Go 4 or 5 wraps. And now this is the tricky part. The thread is actually going to wrap the hackle off on the post. There we go. Let's see if I can get in there with my scissors and snip the bottom of that hackle off. Perfect. All right, and now to do the whip finish on this is tricky, but if you tilt it at about a 45-degree angle, then we'll grab our whip finisher, wherever it went. There we go. And this part we are gonna slip 1, 2, 3. There we go. All right, let's put that back to the top. And we should be able to cut that off. trim our parachute post so it's about the right height. And the last thing I want to do is go back in, and if there's any little hackles that got trapped by the thread, we can go and trim any of those out. There we go. That is the Parachute Adams. Not a perfect Parachute Adams, but it'll catch fish. Thanks for watching.